What's up everyone? Welcome back to my channel Lush Gardener. In today's video, we are going to be talking about why do succulent leaves tend to turn narrow and slender. Now, of course, most of my succulents do not have that issue because they receive a good amount of morning direct sunlight for at least 6 to 7 hours. So in this video, I will be talking more in terms of pictures because long back I did have a succulent that was having narrow and slender leaves. I don't have that issue anymore because there is a lot of light. So the next couple of clips are just going to be basic pictures which I will be sharing on the screen. So here we have our Graptovaria olivia. You can see it is completely green in color. Now this is going to be a little imaginative. Let's say this was a balcony. It had a right side and the left side. The right side did not receive any direct sunlight. It was only indirect bright light, whereas the left hand side received direct sunlight. Now this particular succulent, which is green in color, was placed on the right hand side. Now you can see there is no evident stretch because it is getting a good amount of indirect bright light. The succulent is still very compact, but it is green in color. Now this is for people who have their apartments or houses that are not facing the east or south, because these are the two locations wherein you receive morning direct sunlight. And a lot of people have their apartments that are facing the opposite direction. Basically, their balconies are facing towards the north, or they do not receive a lot of direct morning sunlight. So you will end up with a succulent that tends to look like this, wherein the succulent is not stretching, but at the same time it does not have a lot of colors, because you will see the same succulent in some time when it is moved to the left side of the balcony. So over here, as you can see, the succulent is still very compact. The crown area has very compact and shorter leaves, but you can see the older leaves are a little bit narrow, a little bit slender, and they are kind of stretching away from the stem. Even the new growth that you see, that is a little bit shorter because that is the new growth, but as and when the succulent will start to grow, even the new growth will start to reach out far away from the stem. Now this is not a typical stretching because we still get an ample amount of indirect bright light. Now why does the leaves turn narrow, slender, and they start to kind of extend away from the stem? Now I will give you a very simple example. Let's say that you're sitting on the sofa, you're sitting on one end of the sofa and your TV remote is on the other end of the sofa. Now you want to reach out to your TV remote, but you do not want to get up from your spot. So what you do is you start to stretch your hands towards that TV remote, but you still do not want to get up from your spot. So you try your best, you put in all your potential to stretch and reach to that TV remote, but you're still not able to reach towards it. The next thing what you do is you start leaning sideways and putting in even more of your stretching in order to get hold of that remote. Now, the moment you have put in all the amount of efforts and pressure, you get hold of the TV remote. What you do next is you come back to your own spot. You are going to change your position. You are leaning your hand towards it. Now that you have got the remote, you are going to come back to your sitting position. So the same thing is happening over here. The succulent is getting a good amount of light, but it is not enough. Probably the intensity is a little bit less. So what it starts doing is it tends to turn its leaves a little bit narrow and slender. They're going to be narrow at the base that is connecting to the stem, and the leaves are going to be slightly broader at the end of the tip, like you can see in this clip over here. So basically there is light, but the intensity is very less. There is enough light for the succulent not to stretch vertically, But the succulent lacks the intensity in light, hence it is increasing its circumference on the leaves in order to get more light. It is getting light, but it needs even more light. Basically, it is stretching out to that remote. It's basically like you are stretching towards the remote. You know that there is remote kept on the other end of the sofa. You are trying to reach out to that. Now, because I noticed that the succulent is struggling for some more light, it is getting indirect bright light, but it requires even more light. So now I decided to move the succulent to the left side of the balcony, which is the spot where it receives a lot of direct sunlight. Now, of course, all this while the succulent has been away from direct sunlight. We cannot suddenly put it out in direct sunlight. It will get burnt. We have to do a slow acclimation because the succulent is completely green in color. It's not ready for direct sunlight. The green leaves will definitely get burnt if I'm going to expose it all of a sudden to direct sunlight. So after the process of acclimation, it slowly started to change its color. Now it started in winters, which is when I started to move it to the left side of the balcony. It was during the winters, and by the end of Feb, early March, that's when the summer started in my city. Graptovaria is a summer dormant succulent. It also started to get dormant. Now you can see the colors completely changed because it was getting a lot of direct morning sunlight for around 6 to 7 hours, or maybe 7 to 8 hours of direct morning sunlight, because it was the left hand side of the balcony. You can also notice that the leaves also started to get shorter because it's getting that ample amount of sunlight. It's basically like you have now reached to the remote, the TV remote, and now you retract yourself back in the sitting position. That is the same example. Now that the succulent is getting enough amount of light, it does not need any more larger area of circumference on the leaf. So it started to retract its leaf back to the stem area. It doesn't happen within couple of weeks. It doesn't happen within couple of months. It takes roughly around, let's say, 4 or 5 or maybe 6 months. So it was a very long time for the succulent to look like this with a good amount of intense colors. So this is the reason why the leaves will start getting narrow. Very common in echeverias, graptoverias. The leaves will start looking narrow from the part that's connected to the stem. They will be narrow, slender, and a little bit broad at the end of the tips, basically trying to capture as much as light as possible. It's not a typical stretch, but it is kind of in a way. So that's about it, guys. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep propagating.